Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us and watching this video. My name is Aaishah. Today we'll be joined by the SEO content team lead at Logicose, Diane Desouza. Hello Diane, how are you?
Hi Aisha. Hi everyone. I'm good. How is everyone in the middle of this pandemic?
I'm guessing as good as we can be. So today, today we'll be answering some of the most frequently asked questions about content writing here at Logicose and what exactly is Logicose, what kind of work do we do over here that is different from what content writing is generally understood to be. So to answer the first question, Logicose is a fast-paced IT and digital marketing company that caters to international clients, mostly small and medium-sized businesses in the US, UK, Canada, and more. And basically, content is just a small portion of the services that we offer to them. But it is also one of the most essential services that we offer to them. And Dan's been doing this for 7 years now. Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. So you started over here as a writer, and then things got a little bit better, and then you moved on to bigger things.
To editing, and then basically right. So I did start off as a writer over here at Logicos. Like a lot of people, I came into this industry like not knowing a lot about it. And Logicos kind of accepted me with open arms, and I think everything that I do know today I've learned on the job. I've learned working with a team of digital marketing experts. I think a lot of on the job training and seminars and trainings that we do has really kind of like opened up my eyes to how content marketing and how digital marketing today is kind of changing the entire game of internet marketing, right? So yeah, I think I'm really excited to kind of like talk more about this entire thing and writing is and what storytelling is in terms of digital marketing.
Yeah, so you talked about storytelling. Could you tell me about, so like it's obvious that storytelling has become a more important part for brands now than ever, and especially for small businesses. And we get a lot of clients who say, okay, we don't really just want content that gives out just the information. We want more. We want to build a brand. So what does that entail in terms of content writing today?
I think so 5 years ago, content marketing was very different. I think what as ago we were more business focused, right? And today I feel like we've moved the focus, we've shifted the focus to more brand focus, right? So when you move from like focusing on a business or promoting a business to focusing on a brand, I think storytelling there becomes like an essential aspect or central aspect, because people are now looking for authenticity in brands. They're looking to build a connection with brands. They're not just looking uh, for information regarding a certain topic. They're looking for a way to connect with the brand. A content churning machine, not just focused on getting content on their website, but be able to sort of connect or with their target audience through storytelling by talking about their brand, by talking about how they came to where they are at the moment and what they have to offer for people. It's not just about we're here to solve your problem, but we're also here to be able to connect with you on a long-term basis so that we can kind of build a connection and be able to have I think a long-term relationship as a brand.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about building a long-term relationship with clients, and would you say that is the only critical element of the story that you're trying to tell, or would there be more elements of the story that you are trying to tell? Like obviously, I would think that the relationship building aspect of it is one of the most important. what other critical elements of the story that you're trying to tell are there in consideration when you're writing content?
We've talked about authenticity, we've talked about building connections, but we also need to talk about relevance. We also need to talk about the significance or the authenticity of the information we're providing, right? So yes, we want to be able to build a connection, but are we doing that with credibility? Credibility is a big aspect of it. For example, let's say you're writing for a brand and you sort of found that perfect spot where you connected with that audience, but have you built credibility in the first place?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that as marketers, that and authenticity, to be able to build your brand, build your business as a credible name in the industry, so that people can sort of build trust. I think right now Google, the trustworthiness of information, how credible the information is on the website, right? So I think that is another factor that I would say plays a very significant role in story.
Yeah, definitely. Like you definitely don't want to be churning out you definitely don't want to be churning out content, that would be a paraphrase version of the first top 3 searches that you would find on Google, right? Because that really would like service. If you're just pushing out content.
So like I
that's
said
saying,
before, we want to be able to
Sorry,
we want to be able to not be a churning a machine that just churns out content for the sake of content, right? Because a lot of brands right now, a lot of businesses focus on just getting content out. And I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that they're making, that they don't realize. It's not just about getting the content out, it's about getting content out that is credible, getting content out that is authentic, getting content out that is able to build a connection with their audience, right? So it's not just like one equation for success. There are like multiple factors that need to be taken into account, because ultimately at the end of the day you're dealing with human beings, right? You're dealing with human emotions. So there really isn't like one equation for every content marketing success. It's a matter of like it's, you have to be able to understand each brand, you have to be able to understand each brand's business model, you have to be able to understand who your target audience is and how you're going to be able to sort of connect with them, how you're going to build that rapport, how you're going to build the credibility, all that.
Yeah. And also, like, all of that ties in with the ultimate goal of the brand personality or the brand persona that you're trying to create. And essentially, I feel like that is what your story is. That's what you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
So how do you decide how to tell the story, right? Now we know what we need to tell in the story. How do you tell the story? What channels do you think are used? How do you decide who your audience is? Because sometimes these small businesses will tell you, sometimes you have to figure that out on your own. So how do you go about figuring out what is the most optimal way of conveying this particular message?
It all comes down to research. I think as the reason why we're able to kind of do what we're doing, and we actually be good at it, is because we work very closely with businesses. Right, it's not just about having the name of the business and then just sort of like running wild with ideas. There's method to the madness. We have a way of sort of like understanding the brand. First of all, the clients provide us with a business brief, where they provide us with like their services, along with sometimes they provide us with a target audience. Some of the times we have to kind of guide them on um, helping us understand the target audience, because a lot of these smaller businesses don't really understand how online marketing works or how any marketing works. As managers, as writers, our role is really important, because we help these businesses identify what their marketing objectives are, and be able to sort of understand what they want to achieve out of this entire process.
Yeah.
Right. So our first first always instinct is to be able to understand exactly what they want out of this entire thing, what their goals and objectives are for the next 1 month, for the next 3 months, so that we have a clear understanding of where we have to sort of or how we have to devise this strategy. So that's the first thing, right? The second thing is then once you understand their business model and their brand vision, we like to call it the brand vision, right? Once you understand that, you can sort of create like a marketing strategy that is in line with that vision. So you understand the kind of style that they're going for. Are they taking their brand too seriously? Are they sort of open to experimenting a bit? Are they looking for a more conversational tone? Are they looking for a more fun personality, right? Then we want to make sure we're taking care of how the content that we create for them is relevant to their business model, right? That's super important. We talked about how relevance builds connection, right? So we want to be able to kind of identify that. And then of course then there's the value of information. So yeah, like the kind of content that we're creating, is it credible enough? All of that kind of plays into how our how our digital marketing campaign sort of is created, to be able to kind of like factor in the target audience, factor in the style guide, factor in what they want to achieve, to create a sort of marketing plan that completely falls in line with their vision, to a success point, to be able to kind of like make sure that those visions are being realized at the end of the day with the kind of content that we're creating.
Yeah. Okay. And so I would assume that it would be very easy to sort of, experiment with different, styles of writing when you have like a less technical client. But if anyone were to read about writing for SEO content, you would come to the conclusion that, okay, you know what, I need to have a conversational tone over here in order to build a relationship with my with the audience. So how do you get to that conversational tone when you have a technical client? For example, maybe someone who sells crane components or some sort of like chip that goes into like a big piece of machinery or something like that.
Yeah. So again, there's really no one equation for success here, right? So every technical client may be different. A lot of them can be clubbed together. A lot of them maybe like may have altogether very unique requirements, right? So again, it all comes down to having these conversations with these businesses and to be able to realize exactly what they're trying to achieve out of this entire marketing, out of this entire process. And we want to be able to, first of all, and if they come to us and say that I'm here because in the next 3 months I want to be able to kind of like get more calls by contractors, or in the next 3 months I want to be able to get more calls by clients directly, right? So when we kind of understand what they're trying to achieve, we're able to sort of like pinpoint the kind of tone they're looking for. So who is the target audience? Again,
Yeah.
I know we sound like a broken record when we keep bringing this up over and over again, but I feel like
Yeah.
the entire process is such an essential factor, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're focused on a target audience that is the layman, right, that means your tone has to be conversational. And as content marketers, it is our job to be able to make sure that whatever information we're putting out there, that it's able to kind of like achieve its purpose. So if I'm creating this content, can my target audience understand what I'm trying to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If my target audience is the layperson for crane machinery or whatever, can they understand what I'm trying to say? Can they decipher the entire process of what the client is looking for? Can they understand what solutions my client is providing? And if I'm able to do that, that means I can get that person to convert. When I say convert, I'm talking about, I can get that person to make that call. I
Yeah.
can convert that customer or
That
that
lead into
potential
a
customer
customer. Yeah.
into a customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is super important. Then secondly, if we're writing for um, let's say you're focused on a journal that's specifically designed for CEOs of companies, right? The tone over there is going to be altogether different. It's going to be a bit more technical because you're not dealing with your typical layperson. You're dealing with uh, with
people
with elite
who know
people who know what they're talking about.
the technical
Exactly,
jargon.
people
You don't
who
need to water it down.
absolutely who
Yeah.
understand the jargon exactly like you said. So the tone over there would be completely different. We wouldn't we wouldn't break the content down. We wouldn't dumb it down, so to speak, right? So I think that is very important to be able to understand the kind of tone you want to go for. And at the end of the day, whether job is to be able to kind of like, make sure that we're just being loyal to the the kind of what the client wants out of this, whether it's conversational tone, whether it's a more technical tone. I think at the end of the day, we just want to be able to convey the information that we are
Yeah. So,
to the audience.
if I were to condense what you're saying, the whole, the truth about understanding what our clients want, it's not just the content writing. It's not just, it is the research part of it. It is also the storytelling part of it. It's not just your typical content writing as you would understand it, or as generally people understand it before stepping into this field. It's also about your customer service skills, right? I feel like you cannot be a good content writer if you don't know how to speak to your client, and if you don't know how to get
Absolutely.
them to give you the information that you need, because you're not there on the field yourself, right? And even if you were somewhere who was in the US, or in that particular country that the client is running their business, you cannot possibly know everything about every field. Like, what would I know about, cranes, for example? But
Absolutely.
if I were a writer, my customer service skills would be helping me in building that relationship with the client, and the client will themselves come to me with that information that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much like, what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So on to some lighter stuff. What is an average day in SEO, in the SEO content team like? Like, how does the day begin for let's say,
Us.
someone who's just starting in as a writer? How are they eased into the process? Are they just, expected to perform on their first day? Is the pressure really there like that? So because sometimes, new writers tend to feel that pressure. I know I felt that pressure when I started here as a writer. So if we can just talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people that we bring on board, a huge chunk of them are people who are new to content writing, maybe. Also, people who are new to any job for that matter. So we hire a lot of fresh grads as well because we want to be able to work with them. We want to be able to kind of like, connect with that energy level. We like the kind of focus and commitment that they bring to the table, right? That's something that we're always, interested in working with. um, so of course they have a lot of questions. There's a lot of like, confusion for people who are doing this for the first time. So I think in the beginning, our first week rather, is all about training, right? So we want to be able to sort of, we don't expect people to hit the ground running because especially with, I think we have maybe like 30 to 40% of people who have been writers, and who have been doing this for like 3, 4, 5 years now, and they can immediately hit the ground running. But that does not, of course, mean that they don't require training. So training is something that, regardless of where you come from, whether you're a fresh grad, whether you're doing it for the first time, whether you're doing it for the fifth time, whether you want to make a shift of career from like, a different field altogether to writing, or whether you've been writing for 5 years, you have to go through an entire training period for roughly about 1 week, right? So you have this training schedule planned out a week in advance, and you have to have these every day, where we cover different aspects of content writing. It could be from, for example, content writing 101. It could be SEO content writing, which involves more technicalities that I don't want to get into right now. It can be about storytelling. It can
Yeah.
be about conversion optimization.
Yeah.
It can be about being able to sort of like, create visually appealing content. So we want to be able to sort of like, have like the checklist and sort of like tick them off with your training period. Because when you do start content writing, when you do start writing for us, we want you to be able to sort of be prepared for this, right? But that doesn't mean like, we expect you to immediately get down to kind of like
Yeah.
writing like huge chunks of content, of course. That means that you work closely with your editor to sort of like understand the kind of content that we're looking for, to be able to first of all be informative enough, to be able to kind of be engaging enough. It needs to be able to build credibility, so you have to, like, in the beginning, for the first 1 month or so, be able to work closely with your editor to understand all these other aspects, to be able to understand the client's business model, to be able to research, how well to research, and all of this is what we focus on in the first week. So yeah, I think that we kind of it's not like you're just thrown into
Thrown
content
off into
marketing
the
and
deep
expect to
end.
write
Yeah,
like
no, it's
5,000 words.
you're just
Yeah,
like, yeah, you're eased into the process. And
it really is a process where we kind
yeah.
of like want to be able to, yeah, we want to be able to invest in you. We want to be able to kind of like help you through the process, through a learning environment, through a learning
Yeah.
culture, so that we can, sort of help you get to the potential that we know you're capable of.
Yeah. Okay. And this is also the next question is also one of the most frequently asked questions, especially on day 1 to day 3. What type of projects will I be getting as a writer, and what's the average word count that I will be expected to do?
I think if we've sort of like talked about a lot of businesses earlier on, so I think that kind of clarifies the question about what I'd be writing about. We work with, like, I would say tens of industries, if not hundreds, right? We're talking about writing for real estate agents, for real estate, for finance, for the beauty world, for entertainment. Um, so there's really no limit to what we're writing for in terms of businesses, in terms of industries, right? Our focus is primarily small businesses in different parts of the world that are looking for content marketing as a way to connect with their brands, to get on the top of Google searches or get on top of any search engine. So we're basically like, just working closely with these businesses. Regarding your question about the word count, on average, we do like to kind of like, understand the writer's capacity. That is really important to us. But if I were to kind of like just put down a number, I would say we're looking for, on average, like anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 words. But so this is a huge, like, this is something I really want to
Yeah.
add, that it's not about the word count for us, right? I've mentioned this before, I mentioned this earlier as well, that it's not about us trying to sort of just churn out content for the sake of content, right? That's exactly what we're not trying to do. We want to be able to make sure that the content that we're shelling out, the content that we're posting out there, actually adds value
Yeah.
to the lives of the target audience, and to the client's business vision, the
Yeah.
client's online marketing vision, right? So it's not just about like, getting out 2,000, 3,000 words of content. Is to be able to create content that really makes an impact.
That can
So
build a brand.
quality is never
Content that can build a
compromised.
brand,
Absolutely, yeah.
essentially.
So
Yeah.
we're talking about quality content that is well researched, compelling enough, engaging enough,
Yeah.
and of course credible enough.
Okay. So there's that answer, one of the most frequently asked questions. But to take things towards more towards a little bit towards SEO writing, how is it different from writing
Mhm.
content in general? So at Logicose we have two content departments. One is the SEO content, and one is general content. Where we have other services as well. So I would like you to clarify, Diane, how SEO writing is different from your typical understanding of content writing.
At some point, maybe like 3 years ago, there was like a clear difference. But I feel like we're reaching a point right now where they're just converging,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
because like initially content writing used to be like, writing blogs and articles that were just there to
Hmm.
sort of fill in pages, and then we moved towards content that was useful
Hmm.
for brands, and then we moved on to content that was useful to brands, plus with the added keywords and meta
Yeah.
details and meta titles. So I feel like we're now come to a point right now where I think if you're not writing content that is SEO focused,
Hmm.
you're really not doing justice to your business,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like it
So I feel
also
like there
won't
is
really rank
difference.
on Google anymore if it's not engaging enough,
Absolutely,
and it's not
exactly.
if it's not SEO focused enough, it just won't rank anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that now if you take a look, number of search engines that we have, we could talk focus on Google for now, right? But if you create content and if it's not ranking on Google, what's the point of even writing the content,
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. And okay,
right?
so
So you put right,
yeah.
which is exactly where SEO kind of comes into focus,
Mhm.
right? SEO, for most people who don't understand it, means search engine optimization. The idea is to be able to take people that you want it to be visible to. That basically is the gist of what SEO is. And I think that now, the whole idea is to be able to like, and I wouldn't be able to kind of simplify it and tell you exactly what SEO content is about, because there are like over 200 ranking factors.
Mm.
Google is not just taking into account like one factor, as long as you add keywords in your blog and article, you can rank. It is not
Mm.
that simple, right?
Yeah.
uh, Google takes into account over 200 ranking factors, in addition to keywords. There's
Hmm.
meta details, there's meta tags, there's image optimization, the speed of your website, the optimization, the development aspect of the website. All of those factors sort of really come together to create that, the ranking that you
Yeah.
actually want, right?
Hmm.
So I would say that, when you're writing content generally, you'd probably just kind of like, write content and hope that it would be able to rank.
Yeah.
But if you're writing for SEO, you're able to sort of like create this very focused strategy to make your business visible.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Diane, please tell me, how important is it for a new writer to have prior SEO knowledge before coming into the job? Is that something that is also part of the training that we do over here?
I mean, it is a plus point. So when we do interview candidates, and if they do have prior SEO knowledge, and if they do, um, or they have worked in the past in the SEO field, that definitely is, a plus point. They have an edge for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
But that does not mean that we're completely overlooking people who have
Mm-hmm.
no SEO knowledge, right? Um, so I think that over here, we believe in training on the job as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're expected to know everything when you do join, because in the first week of training, we do first week when the writers do join, we do focus on our trainings, and we do cover aspects of like, introduction to SEO and then more advanced SEO over time. So I think that you wouldn't need to know that,
Hmm.
but if you do know it, that's definitely great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So a couple of questions just before we wrap up. What is our organizational culture like?
So we get this question a lot during the interview, and we've
Hmm.
always talked about how I've always mentioned this, that we're an organization that works hard.
Hmm.
We're also an organization that compensates people really hard,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I think that right now, if you take a look at the culture in different organizations and everything, it's about like, you have employers who sort of work with people, and then you have employers who work sort of like in a way that is mutually beneficial for both
Hmm.
parties.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of organization that we are. We want to be able to not just grow as a company, but grow with our employees. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I've been able to kind of like, be part of this organization for the past 7 years, as have several other people, because we understand that we want to be part of a fast growing organization that is invested in us. So I think if I were to kind of like talk about Logicose's culture, it's about growing in an environment that thrives on learning.
Definitely.
We want to constantly be able to learn. That process never stops for us. So in every department, I think that is one of the biggest aspects, is because we want to be able to go, because that's essential to growing, right? SEO is changing every single day, content marketing is changing every single day, PPC is changing every day, web development is changing every day, leadership is changing every day, right? So we want to be able to, regardless of what we're doing, we want to be able to really like, continue learning. We want to be able to sort of like, create a safe space for employees. The key word over here is a safe space, to sort of like, create a culture where people can join us and work hard with us, and grow with us ultimately. So that they're able to reach their potential, and we're able to reach our potential as a business.
Like I feel like the culture over here really pushes you, like you said, to grow, but not just as a professional, as an individual, both in your personal and professional capacities. It really challenges you intellectually as to finding solutions for what you can do differently, and also grow as a community. So the growth over here is never really just about you. It's also about what we are doing at a company level, and how we can extend that outwards, not just within the Logicose community, but also outside of it. If we really go back to our vision statement, it talks about all sorts of stakeholders, that are part of the growth here at Logicose. And that's something that really stands out to me personally as well. That is a really good part of our organizational culture. Okay.
I think Aaishah, you've been with us for over 3 years now, almost. Yeah. So I think you would also kind of agree with this, that when we did come on board, I think you want to be able to, you're able to have these agreements openly. Right? Because if you don't have these disagreements, specifically, I'm sorry I said agreement, but if you don't have these disagreements, you're not going to be able to go. So you kind of have this culture where you can have these very healthy discussions with your
open
team,
conversations.
with your open conversations with your managers. You can openly disagree with them about like how to move forward, and it kind of like facilitates this healthy debate about where we're not just focused on like agreeing with each other, but we're focused on actually coming up with solutions that are edgy, solutions that really bring out the best. So I think that, and like you mentioned, the community aspect of it as well, we want to be able to not just provide value to our employees and to the company, of course, to our clients, but to also provide value to the people at large, like working with different organizations, non-profit organizations. We're constantly donating to these organizations, especially causes that are close to our heart. And I think that is something that we have consistently been doing for a while now. That also becomes a very essential aspect of our culture. I would say like a growing culture that really is empathetic.
And to add one more thing to it, and I feel like this one thing would be the foundation of everything that we do over here, is that we have a very, very open feedback culture. So it's not just managers giving feedback to their team members, it's also team members giving feedback to their managers, and it's a two-way street over here, and everything is here out in the open. Everything is discussed in one-to-ones, and like weekly meetings and monthly meetings and then quarterly meetings and then half-yearly meetings. So we really leave no room for ambiguity over here. And we really create like this open safe space for people to say what they want to, and to make sure that they are aligned with what we are aligned with. The managers are aligned with what they want, what their team members want to achieve. The team members are aligned with what the managers and the organization wants to achieve, and I feel like that's a very, very important part of our culture over here. Okay, so last question over here for today is webinar, if you want to call it that. What does it take to be successful at this job? We talk about feedback over here.
A
Personally, as a
lot.
writer, but no, but like, I mean, of course, like we work hard. We work really, really hard. But like if I can tell you a little bit about what success meant to me as a writer, it was about trying to gracefully take that feedback and also professionally gracefully give that feedback. Um,
I couldn't agree more.
yeah, so I feel like as a writer, that personally is what worked out for me. I would love to hear your take about it.
When I do meet, like, a team of writers who are new to Logicos, we usually hire them in batches, and we're really thrilled about having them on board and like connecting with them and meeting them, right? What I really want to see from these candidates is, first of all, focus. They need to be able to kind of like just say, that I want to be able to do this, and content writing is what I want to do. SEO content writing is what I want to do. Also, the commitment to get better, like you mentioned, to be able to kind of gracefully and positively take feedback,
Yeah.
right? That is something that's really important, because whether you're doing this for the first time or whether you're doing this for like the umpteenth time, I think you need to be open to just understanding that there's still room to grow.
Yeah. It doesn't
So
even
I want to
matter
be
if
able
you're
to kind
really
of,
good at English, like to be very honest.
absolutely, of course.
Like
I think,
people,
as
there are
like I
people who
said,
could have like who could be really, really good at English and still have a long way to go in learning the ropes of content writing, especially SEO content writing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think focus and commitment to getting better is very important, and of course the tenacity. You want to be able to say, okay, fine, this is what I'm doing. This is where I need to work, what I need to work on. These are the areas where I need to work on, and I'm gonna set short-term, long-term goals for myself to be able to like achieve these targets, right?
Yeah.
That kind of attitude is exactly what you want to be able to see in your writers, because that is ultimately like the entire, I think, recipe for success, I feel.
Yeah.
Hard work goes a really long way. Hard work,
Yeah.
determination goes a really long way. And I think just being open to feedback, I feel like regardless of who you are, I have been doing this for 7 years now, and I still feel like it's really important for me to get feedback from not just my manager, but also the people and the team that I work with, like the people who are editing, the writers, all of these guys kind of giving me feedback on how I can potentially get
Yeah.
better. I think that if I'm open to that, I feel like there's only good that can come out of it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there are several ways for you to succeed in your career, is if you have that focus, if you have the commitment to get better, if you have a positive attitude, and just the right energy to work and commit to the
Yeah.
job that you're doing.
Yeah. Definitely. That's a great ending thought over here, Diane. And thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule to do this. And thank you
No, no, it's a
thank you
pleasure.
to thank you to everyone else who joined in and listening to the answers of these burning questions that people generally have. If you would like us to do more of these sessions, please let us know in the comments below. We would love to answer more questions for you. And if there's something that you would like us to cover that we haven't talked about already, please let us know in the comments and we'll get back to you. All right. Thank you, Diane, once again for doing the
Thank
session.
you so much, Aaishah.
All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.